Hello and welcome to the DeTullio and Durger College Sports Show. I am Joe. With me is Rob, as always. Here to talk some college football through 6 weeks of the season, headed into Week 7. Some teams are already bowl eligible. Some teams are already on the verge of being disqualified from bowl eligibility. A lot's happened in the first 6 weeks. First, Rob, how you doing?
Doing good. In the second half of the season, I don't think anything is officially disqualified just yet, but I think there's a couple that by the end of the week might not be able to say that anymore.
Yeah, maybe a team like Rutgers that we were talking a little bit about pre-show is one of those teams that has one win, but it's getting closer and closer to that time where they won't be able to make up for a bowl game.
This week will only be their sixth loss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the money line is on that, but if anyone wants to make a bold bet on Rutgers to make a bowl game this year, that'd be crazy. So,
actually, on a quick scan of the schedule, there's not a single team that can pick up loss number 7. A couple can pick up number 6 today or this weekend, but
hey, that's good. That's a positive thing going.
Everyone's still going to be alive after this week.
Yeah, that's a positive thing going into this week. And this week does have a lot of good games that we'll preview in a little bit here, including LSU and Georgia, including Michigan, Wisconsin, Oregon, Washington as well. So we'll talk about all of that. First, though, we like to recap last week, and we start that off with the teams of the week. Rob, who's your first team of the week?
Biggest win of the week, in my opinion, was the Gators, keeping their hopes alive in the SEC East, still control their own destiny by beating LSU in the Swamp on Tim Tebow's inauguration to the Ring of Honor, and winning Steve Spurrier's the bet against Les Miles, so Les will be wearing a Florida visor. But for Florida, it is really their defense was the story of the game. Held that LSU rushing attack, held Brissett under 100 yards, held Burrow under 200 yards, kept him in check, picked him off twice, sacked him 5 times. And Felipe Franks didn't have his best game, only 6 yards per attempt and well under 50% completion percentage. Was able to do enough, both on feet, on the ground as well. And the Gators pulled off a big win to really have the Dan Mullen era going off to a pretty good start for year 1.
Yeah, definitely. My first team of the week is Notre Dame. They had a game against Virginia Tech on the road. The atmosphere is pretty awesome, as they always have their good pregame ritual running into Enter Sandman. But, we were kind of down on Virginia Tech after that loss to Old Dominion. They were ranked for this game 24th, and they played Notre Dame tough for about the first half or so. Second half, Notre Dame really took over. Really encouraged by their offense with Ian Book. It's just continued to prove that it's good, whether it's against Stanford or Virginia Tech. Dexter Williams coming back to this team at running back, too, has really been a shot in the arm of life. 178 yards, 3 touchdowns for him. It looks like this team is one that can make the college football playoff, and at first I was thinking, well, maybe they're not that good, but at the same, their schedule will let them do it if they go undefeated. Now I'm thinking they're actually pretty good too. I mean, they're not going to have the best resume going in if that's the case, if they win out even. But they look like a team that could make the playoff and maybe compete in a game, as long as maybe they're not playing Alabama. So Notre Dame's the first team of the week. Rob, how about your second?
Second down in the SEC was Texas A&M, who put an end to Kentucky's start of the season in a 2014 win where part of the Texas A&M defense that was the star of the show. 6 sacks, including one that put them out of field goal range, or what ended up being their field goal range in overtime before Travion Williams' touchdown. Didn't understand the Kentucky play calling for a lot of the game. Only gave Benny Snell 15 carries, which was about half what I probably would have given them as the offensive coordinator. Terry Wilson just wasn't able to make enough plays, and Texas A&M got the biggest win of the Jimbo era on Saturday night.
Yeah, funny to hear that Kentucky is Jimbo's biggest win, but hey, it's what happens this year, so definitely makes sense. My second team of the week was Texas beating their rival Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout. We're still going to call it that because that's what it is, but a great game. They went up big in the second half, but Oklahoma came storming back. get a game-winning field goal from Cameron Dicker, the kicker, as Gus said on the play-by-play. He called the game-winning kick. It was something that gave you a little bit of a chill when it went in, and you heard Gus calling such an emotional moment. And Texas, I don't want to sound the alarm. Everyone always makes fun of the fact that is Texas back, but this is I think they're back at this point. They 5-1, maybe not back to getting to a championship this year or anything, but they're well on their way back. We both, I think, had them around 8-4, maybe 9-3 max before the season, and it's looking like that's going to happen at the very least, which is a good step for this program moving forward with maybe uncertainty with some other programs in the Big 12. Oklahoma just fired their defensive coordinator, Mike Stoops. Not that he was doing much in terms of stopping other teams' offenses. West Virginia has Will Grier this year. Next year, they're likely going to see a drop off without him. So Texas is in a prime position for this year to finish off strong, maybe do some damage, but next year as well. And Tom Herman's next year could really do some big things for this program. So Texas is my team of the week. Let's move on to upset teams of the week. Rob, who's your first?
Going out west, Utah Utes team. I was fairly high on preseason. I remember thinking to myself after they lost to Washington State the week before, maybe they just don't have it this year. But they do. They turn around and blast Stanford on the road, 40-21, and their first. Well, they're now 1-2 in conference, and their first marquee win of the season. They really took a pace out of Stanford's playbook. Obviously, Stanford didn't have Bryce Love, which hurt, but they held Stanford to 28 carries for 42 yards, which is really impressive for usually the physical beast of the Pac-12. And on the other hand, they were 22 yards and 2 touchdowns on them. So Utah pretty much did whatever they want. Stanford, they already got one big win on the season, but Oregon looks like they're probably going to take a back seat to Washington, the Pac-12 North. And the South is wide open. Maybe they're still a player in it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going with my first one of Mississippi State beating Auburn 23-9. Nick Fitzgerald got going in this game for the Bulldogs, 195 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. And the defense showed up, obviously not giving up a touchdown with the 9 points there, 3 different field goals for Auburn. This, I guess, effectively eliminates Auburn from the college football playoff. It would take another miracle run. There's never been a 2-loss team in the college football playoff, although Auburn would have been the first, I guess, if they had completed what they started last year and won the SEC. But they're effectively, for right now, they're out of the conversation. Mississippi State, a team that's just really hard to figure out. Maybe it's just the ebbs and flows of having a new head coach. We talked about the fire Joe Moorhead stuff's already going on, but they get this big win, and I think it just really proves to anyone from the outside maybe that the SEC is really just going to be Alabama and Georgia at the top, and then a bunch of other teams that are solid, but just kind of beating up on each other in between. Because otherwise, you look at this, Kentucky beats Mississippi State, Kentucky beats Florida, Florida beats LSU, Mississippi State beats Auburn, Kentucky loses to Texas A&M. It's kind of a hodgepodge. It's a mess. But we still know the 2 best teams are probably Alabama and Georgia. So Mississippi State with the upset win. It's good for to get to a bowl game. It's good to kind of maybe make a run in the SEC West. They have 2 losses, 1 win, but it has to make you feel good getting that first big win under Joe Moorhead. Rob, let's go to your second.
I'm going with another team that I really kind of gave up on, and I'm sure a lot of people did as well, but Northwestern, after a close call against Michigan last week, they finished the job in East Lansing, upsetting Michigan State, previously ranked number 20, 29-19, in probably the least Big Ten performance they could have possibly given. 20 carries for 8 yards, didn't get anything on the ground, but Clayton Thorson put the team on his back, 2 for 373 yards, 3 touchdowns. Michigan State, I know they had some fans that were really upset with their secondary play, and that's only going to increase. Still without LJ Scott, which, given his traffic citations that came out today, who knows how long, or if he's going to be back this year. Michigan State, a team that's starting to reel down to, questions about their bowl eligibility, whereas Northwestern's bounced back from that 1-2 start to be 2-3. Their 1-3 start, actually, to be 2-1 in the conference, and actually still alive in the Big Ten West, which is kind of crazy considering they lost to Akron.
Yeah, definitely.
By the way, got blown out from Miami, Ohio last week.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's just a crazy year of college football all around with different things like that. Outside of the top teams, it's gonna be a weird year. My second upset team though is gonna be Iowa State, and to add to the weirdness of everything, third string quarterback Brock Purdy's in there, throws for 318 yards, 4 touchdowns, rushes for 84 yards and a touchdown. And Iowa State goes into Stillwater and beats Oklahoma State, who's number 25 in the country. Not really sure how good either of these teams are this year. It's I guess even though we're halfway through the season for Oklahoma State and Iowa State has 5 games in, it's still hard to figure out. But got to feel confident Iowa State winning that game. Maybe they can go on a roll here after winning a big one on the road. Oklahoma State, this makes it tough to come back in that Big 12 picture. They do have 2 losses in the Big 12 already, with big games down the road still. So that will definitely make it tough, and really puts, I think, the 3-way race between Texas, Oklahoma, West Virginia. Really, I think that's kind of the thing to watch out for. Maybe Oklahoma State, Iowa State, some other teams can pull off some of its upsets down the road. But props to Iowa State for seemingly being able to, the last couple of years, to throw in any quarterback they want and just win a big game against Oklahoma teams, as they did last year with Kyle Kempt, who was a 7th-string quarterback at one point, and then this year with Brock Purdy. Let's move on to Players of the Week, Rob.
Yeah, it's about time we name him. He's put on these kinds of performances all year, but I give to the credit for last week. Didn't have to play the whole game in their beatdown against Arkansas, but from the time that he did play, he finished 13 for 334 yards, 4 touchdowns, which equaled out to 25.7 yards per attempt and 99.6% QB rating, which absolutely dwarfed Jalen Hurts' 99.2 QB rating he put in when he came in the second half. But Tua's still doing Tua things and just running over everyone in the SEC, and it's going to take a pretty monstrous effort to slow him down.
Yeah. I would put I've seen the Heisman odds. I would take him over the field all day. I know they haven't played too many good teams yet, but I really, there's almost like, I mean, this always happens where there's a front runner, but this is almost like the most sure thing I think I've ever seen in terms of a Heisman race. I know Dwayne Haskins is kind of on his tail, but I don't know. This is crazy. He's never played in the fourth quarter. He hasn't thrown a pass in, I think, he hasn't thrown a pass in the fourth quarter. He's hardly played it in second halves of games. It's 10 of 13. Are you kidding me? Crazy stuff.
And that's right, with how much he's able to sit out, too. I mean, Hurts might get a Heisman invite as well.
Yeah, that'd be funny. My player of the week is not really on any Heisman radars. It is Pitt running back, all-purpose player, Quadri Olison. He had 192 yards, helped Pitt upset Syracuse. Syracuse 2 losses in a row. Maybe a little bit of a trap game for them. They were traveling to Pittsburgh after that emotional game against Clemson. And Olison did his best to help out here. He's a future pro. He'll get probably at some point in the 2019 draft. He'll be going, but makes his mark, helps his team win the game. And this one, I mean, Pitt was a team I don't think we were really thinking they were going to do too much this year, but now they're back up to 500 with that tough, physical Pat Narduzzi style. I mean, they could make a bowl game. They could probably pull off an upset here or there. I mean, like they did against Clemson the one year. So, or they almost did against Clemson last year. So, definitely watch out for Pittsburgh down the road if Olison keep this thing going. All right, let's go to this week now. Let's go over to. We're going to start with our upset pick as we always do. Rob, we'll start with yours.
I'm with one of my favorite teams, the Warriors of Hawaii, who did get bowl eligible last week, the 6-1, one of the first teams to do so. They're going to Provo, Utah, against the BYU team that's kind of been reeling since their win over Wisconsin, sitting at just 3-3. I really like Hawaii for 3 reasons. Really cool. He was a stud. He was out last based on reports, he should be back in at quarterback. Number two, their defense really stepped up on their win against Wyoming last week, held them to just 13 points, which was a stark improvement from what they'd done earlier this season. And number three, I just love the craftiness of head coach Skrolovich. This is a guy who, in order to throw Wyoming off, put another player in Cole McDonald's jersey for warm-ups. I don't know how well it worked. I don't know that it really messed with Wyoming's game plan, but either way, I love the thinking from him, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
I can't either. Hawaii's had a good season. I am going with BYU. They did get pretty much demolished against their rival Utah State. That's never good. They're kind of a team can't really figure out this year. I mean, they were good at one point, and then they lose to Utah State, who's a good team, mind you, but I think they can beat Hawaii, especially if Cole McDonald isn't 100%. So I'm going to take BYU at home in this one, but I think it could be very close, and if Cole McDonald goes off, anything can happen. My upset pick of the week is Middle Tennessee, who's going to beat FIU on the road. That's my pick. FIU is favored by 2 points. Middle Tennessee, I think, still has a solid roster. Maybe not at the top of CUSA, but I think they're very worthy of being a quality team. And I think they can beat FIU on the road, who head coach Butch Davis can't be inspiring too much confidence by saying, we don't have a gimmick down here for turnovers. What we give them is they get to keep their scholarship. Well, I mean, that's not much incentive to go out there and get the turnover. So I'm going to go Middle Tennessee here.
Yeah, I'm going FIU. I think the winner of this is in prime position to win Conference USA East. I think it's pretty similar talented team, so I'm taking the Golden Panthers at home.
All right, we'll move on to the rest of our picks for the week. We'll start off with the Thursday game, Texas Tech at TCU.
I'm taking Texas Tech. Too much offensive firepower without them, and like their improved defense, I think they get the win on the road.
I have them too. Talked about TCU preseason till now that they're not maybe as good as people thought, and Tech has outperformed expectations, thrown a couple different quarterbacks in there and won with them, so kind of the more things change, the more they stay the same in terms of that, and Texas Tech gets the win. USF and Tulsa is an interesting game, not in the fact that this game is interesting, but USF is now ranked in the AAC, which I don't know about you, but it probably helps UCF's chances of, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever make the CFP, but at least help their case and help their resume that 3 different AAC teams are ranked.
Yeah, I mean, the other two teams have, I mean, not that UCF beat anyone. All 3 of them played very soft non-conference schedule. South Florida, in my opinion, is nowhere near one of the top 25 teams in the country, but they are a lot better than Tulsa.
Yeah, I'm going South Florida too. We'll see how this plays out as they have their rivalry game with UCF later on in the year. We'll move on. Let's go to Arizona at Utah.
I'm sticking with Utah at home. Too good of a defense. They're riding high after their big win against Stanford. I think they'll keep Tate in check and Arizona.
I'm going Utah too. Tate, I saw a stat. His first 100 rushes of last year, he had 800 and something yards. The first 100 rushes of this year, he has 150 or something rushing yards. He's not the same. The offense isn't the same. Utah should win this game, and the Pac-12 South, anything can happen. I mean, Colorado is doing pretty well right now, but Utah, I wouldn't put it past Utah to do something down there either. Let's move down to Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
I got Oklahoma State here. They took a tough loss, but Kansas State is in the Big 12, just lost to Baylor. They're a team that just doesn't have it this year. I got the Cowboys beating them badly.
I have Oklahoma State winning too. Struggling a little bit, but they should get back on track in this one. Kansas State is not a good football team. Bill Snyder is actually costing them games sometimes with the way he plays his quarterbacks and chooses who goes in where, if he has any say on that, if you lose this offensive coordinator.
I think that's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I would imagine too, but he's got to do something about that too, because that's crazy. And I don't know about you, but this is a team that's, bottom 2 or 3 in the Big 12. I mean, they lost to Baylor, so is Kansas the only team really underneath them right now?
And Kansas is going to give them a game at least this year.
I might be teasing that. I might be taking Kansas this year. I don't know. They just did fire their offensive coordinator at Kansas, so maybe that's kind of a bold thing to say. But we'll wait until the end. We'll wait till rivalry week, and we'll just pick every game there is on the schedule. Let's move on down. Let's go Duke at Georgia Tech.
I'm going Duke here. I'm surprised to see Georgia Tech as a favorite via the triple option toss, but I think Duke bounces back from that. Virginia Tech loss was a big win.
I think they do too. Duke is as a team, I think, is one of the best in the ACC. Not saying a whole lot because the ACC isn't that good this year, but they have some solid players. I think Duke's going to win. Georgia Tech is not as good of a team as Vegas thinks they are. I guess I don't know. I'm going to go Duke. Pittsburgh after their win against Syracuse 500 at number 5 Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's going to be a little too much for Pitt to handle. This is still the same team that lost 46 to Penn State. I don't think it'll be quite that bad, but I think Notre Dame rolls them over.
I think they do too. Pitt somehow always plays them close, so maybe they'll stick with them for the first half or so, but then Notre Dame will pull away, much like they did against Virginia Tech. Not much to say here. Notre Dame just has to keep on winning these games, and at the end of the year, if they're undefeated, they'll be in the playoff. Simple as that. If they lose a game and slip up here, that's where they're really vulnerable with the schedule and not having 13 games to play like every other team.
Yeah, and some of their wins, too. I mean, Stanford in particular, going unranked, Virginia Tech being unranked now, hasn't exactly helped them out.
No, and USC won't be ranked, and yeah, it's not as good of a schedule as they probably thought heading into the season. Let's go to number 2 Georgia at number 13 LSU.
I thought about picking the upset here. It kind of feels like a recipe for it. Death Valley, an LSU team that looks like they're reeling and a top 5 opponent, but I think Georgia's too good. Kirby Smart's had them so focused 2 years. They haven't had slip-ups against bad teams. Not that LSU's a bad team, but teams that I guess should be beneath them. I see LSU hanging around for probably 3 quarters, but then Georgia with that ground game's going to pull away.
I think Georgia's going to win too. The difference here is really that LSU offense again. They did a lot of good things to win the game, but Florida came down with that last drive to win it with that pass from the tight end to Felipe Franks. LSU's defense is legit as always. I mean, it's probably better than some years that in the past. We've been talking about Devin White's all over the field. I think they slow down Jake Fromm, but the running game finally gets through, and they'll win the game on that. Rivalry game, Washington at Oregon, number 7 versus number 17.
Yeah, and 2 great quarterbacks with Browning versus Herbert. I'm going with Washington. I like their defense a little bit better.
I do too. I think it's going to be Herbert's going to get a chance to show what he can do again, and he's going to show that he's a good quarterback. But you're right, the defense on Washington's side is going to be just enough. They might force a turnover to help them win the game in the end. Michigan State after their loss at number 8 Penn State.
Yeah, this is going to be a big game for the direction of Michigan State season from here on out. A blowout loss and you see it really start to unravel. Don't think they're having LJ Scott back. Don't trust their defense that got shredded by Clayton Thorson. Their offense wasn't able to get anything going against Northwestern. I think Penn State blows them out.
I think they do too. They haven't really gotten a chance to play a lot of solid teams other than Ohio State, and that one, obviously they showed they were a good team to play with Ohio State, so I'm interested to see what they do the rest of their season, but I think this is one that they win pretty easily too. Baylor at number 9 Texas, really moving up in the rankings after that win against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I got Texas winning big here. Baylor is an improved team, a lot more so than they were last year. Charlie Brewer's a pretty good quarterback for them, but it's not going to be enough. Texas, but coming off that big win, I could see this one being the game that's a lot closer than people might think.
I could see that too. Texas is going to win, though. Defense is pretty good. I know they give a lot of points to Oklahoma, but who doesn't? Got a couple key stops. And the offense of Sam Ehlinger, he makes plays. He played well in the Oklahoma game last year, though. I want to see that sustained success. I think this year he might find it more than when he was a true freshman last year. So I will go Texas, and I think they're going to go win another game, put themselves in good position in the Big 12. Number 10, UCF at Memphis.
I got UCF rolling here. Memphis, one of the more disappointing teams with their easy schedule. Could have seen them. Yeah, kind of pictured them going on a decent unbeaten stretch to start the season, but losses to Navy and Tulane have put a damper on that. I think UCF's going to crush them.
I think they are too. Again, their biggest tests will be USF and the University of Cincinnati later in the year. I don't know how much of a test they're actually going to get from those two teams. So UCF looking pretty good for another.
Maybe Houston in the West has had some moments.
Yeah. If they make it
in the conference championship,
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to number 22 Texas A&M at South Carolina.
I got Texas A&M here. Could be a close one. South Carolina is starting Jake Bentley instead of Agent Michael Scarn, who came in and tore up Missouri. Wonder if that's the right decision, but Texas A&M hasn't lost South Carolina since they joined the SEC. I think they keep that win streak going.
I think they did too. They've lost to only the top teams in the country. Basically, they beat a solid Kentucky team on the road this time at South Carolina. I think they get the win. Let's pick the Alabama. We haven't had a chance to pick an Alabama game since week 1, so let's go ahead and pick that real quick, I guess. Yeah, me too. Hot take. Playing Missouri, if anyone's wondering, there is a good chance to see two decently highly thought of quarterbacks in Tua for 2020 and Drew Lock for 2019 draft. But Bama's going to roll in this one too. Number 6, West Virginia at Iowa State.
I kind of figured they were due for an upset. At some point, they got it last week. I don't think they make it 2 in a row.
I don't either. Will Grier's awesome. I can't wait to see whoever they play. I mean, they have to play everyone in the Big 10 or Big 12, but after that, in the Big 12 championship again. I'm excited for all West Virginia's big games heading forward to see how Will Grier can do.
Could they get a second Oklahoma defensive coordinator fired at the end of the season?
Who is it? Ruffin McNeil right now? I think they could fire Ruffin McNeil.
It is Ruffin.
So they could probably get Ruffin fired. Let's go to number 16, Miami at Virginia. Miami got the win over rival Florida State this past weekend.
Yeah, they didn't look great in it, although Florida State might not be as bad as people initially thought. Kind of hesitant about this one. Sleepy environment in Charlottesville against a Virginia team that's pretty decent, but I got the Canes in a close one.
Ooh, okay. I have Miami as well. Defensive talent is great. Offense still figuring itself out. They had bad news. Amon Richards had to retire due to a neck injury. He was a projected first-round pick by a lot of people, so that's definitely a blow to the team. He hadn't produced all that much this year. He had 1 catch, but it has to have an effect on the team going forward. They do still have some guys like Jeff Thomas, but it really makes the receiving core really, really thin at this point. Michael Irvin Jr. is out for the season with a torn ACL, I think, or something, a knee issue. So they've got to figure that out, and that's also with a new quarterback in Nkosi Perry. So they have some issues. They're number 16 right now. I don't think they're the number 16 team in the country right now. Overall, it's one of those things, virtue of winning a couple games, but they will have some tests down the road to really challenge their depth and their offense.
Their schedule actually is pretty favorable when you look at it. They do go at this one at BC and Virginia Tech. They get Duke and Pitt at home, but no teams currently in the top 25 remaining on their schedule.
True. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Are they still the favorites to go to the championship game out of the Coastal?
I mean, Virginia Tech's still undefeated in the conference.
True. Yeah.
So I think, that game being Blacksburg, I would probably lean toward the Hokies.
Yeah. Those two, and Duke is still in it, right? So, I know they lost.
Yeah.
But, well, that's...
Do you think, Pitt or Virginia is going to make a run?
That's the ACC Coastal for you. I don't know. Let's go to UCLA at Cal. A little bit of a rivalry game here, and UCLA did play Washington really tough. There's no moral victories, but they did look a lot better than they had ever under Chip Kelly.
Yeah, they showed some signs, but now they're on the road. they face a really good quarterback in Brandon McElwain for Cal. UCLA's defense has shown some holes. I think McElwain's going to exploit them, and the Golden Bears are going to win this one.
I think they are too. Cal is wearing the throwback uniforms, interestingly enough, so I'm going to go with them. Chip Kelly's not quite there, and when you have quarterbacks' parents talking about how your past coaching experience was just a fluke, that's not all that good. I don't think they get off the snide this week. They stay winless. Next game we'll pick is number 19 Colorado at USC.
I'm taking USC here. I want to take Colorado. I like Montez, but still just not totally convinced by them. They haven't really been challenged yet. I think the Trojans win this at home.
I think they do too. This game is interesting. Colorado is a team I really do want to pick because they do have some talent on offense with Montez and Chenault, but I think USC gets kind of back on track. They're a team that I think will grow and get better throughout the season, especially with the freshman quarterback. This is kind of show a step in the right direction on that. Last one we'll pick, Wyoming at Fresno State.
I'm taking Fresno here. Wyoming just doesn't seem to have much of an offense this year. Fresno, one of the favorites in the Mountain West. I think they're probably behind San Jose State, but one of the better teams out in that part of the country.
Yeah, I'm going Fresno too. Wyoming is a team that hasn't played up to expectations this year. You're right, the offense has struggled. I'm going to go Fresno here too. All right, the game day game now. We have Wisconsin at Michigan. Big game. It's going to be smash mouth Big Ten football up in the big house. Rob, who you rolling with?
Yeah, last time these two teams played is 2 years ago, and I believe Michigan won 14-7, which is about as Big Ten as it gets. But I'm rolling with the Wolverines at home here. The spread's 8.5, which is a little higher than I'd like to see, but I really like the way Shea Patterson's playing. Wisconsin's defense, I don't think it's quite as good as it's been the past few years. They got exploited a little bit by Martinez from Nebraska in that win last week. I think Shea Patterson and those guys are going to make too many plays, and I'll say Michigan by 10.
I like that pick. For me, it's interesting because I think both teams' weaknesses in terms of Wisconsin's offense and Michigan's defense is kind of match up here. Michigan's secondary has not played well at all this year, giving up some big plays. They really just have struggled. And Wisconsin hasn't shown that Alex Hornibrook can beat you with his arm. And I don't know. To me, that's kind of the key matchup here. If Wisconsin or if Michigan shuts down the run, can Alex Hornibrook beat them? My guess is no. I think Michigan by 10 is about as solid a guess as I could give to. They're a team that if they beat Wisconsin too, they get back into the thick of things. They're looking at like that loss against Notre Dame was still not a fluke. Maybe can't compete with Ohio State and Penn State, but surely should be 9-3, 8-4 range. Something that again may not make Michigan fans happy, but that's a pretty good season when they have Penn State and Ohio State in your division. So Michigan in this one. Wisconsin loses the game, still on track to go to the Big Ten championship game as the West representative. All right, college game day guest picker. It's at Michigan this week. Rob, who's your guest picker this week?
Derek Jeter didn't go to Michigan, but from Kalamazoo, pretty big, pretty vocal fan. He doesn't have to worry about watching the Yankees play anymore, and honestly, the Marlins have never had a shot at this, so that was my pick there.
Yeah, I went Michael Phelps. Swimmer, obviously, I don't know what he's doing now that he's not. I think he's retired, right? Like he has to be retired, right?
Yeah, I think after the last Olympics he did.
Yeah, I don't know what he does now. So he's a Michigan guy. I'm going to go with him and hope for it. There's a lot of different options for Michigan, with a lot of different athletes. Anyone else you considered?
Legendary Wolverine fan Kid Rock. I don't know that ESPN would trust having him on camera. Or Storm. They brought Eminem on stage for or not on stage, but in the booth for the Notre Dame game.
Yeah, that was wow.
I just don't know if they trust those two on live camera, on live TV. But a lot of former players out of there too. Obviously, with that Detroit history, certainly no shortage of differences.
Yeah, I was thinking it would be tough to do, but someone like Charles Woodson, who works at ESPN, if they wanted to do a Michigan guy / ESPN guy, he does work on Sundays now for the NFL Sunday Countdown crew, but that'd be a nice little thing to do. People obviously love him up in Michigan. One of the biggest games they'll have at the big house, the game day will be at, so I think that's one you can consider. At one point, I want Schefter on it, though. He's a Michigan guy. I don't think it's going to happen because he has to stay with his phone on and get all the breaking news stuff for NFL games. But I think Schefter's picks would be amazing. I think Lee Corso giving him crap would be amazing, too. All right, that is our show for the week. Rob, any final thoughts?
I don't think so.
All right, we will wrap it up. We'll be back next week to recap Week 7. Preview Week 8, and we're also going to start college basketball next week and go through things. A lot of the teams' practices are starting up. I know Kentucky starts on Friday night, Midnight Madness, and a lot of things going before the next month when college basketball regular season starts, so we'll make sure to preview on that. For now, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.